Okay. So today is Wednesday, February 3rd, and I would like to call this academic achievement meeting to order. First of all, I'd like to just welcome our new team. We have on our team for this year, myself, Ms. Davis, and we have Mrs. Kimberly Williams, Mr. Raynard Ross, and Ms. Christian Grant. So I think we have a good team put together. I'm excited for just some fresh voices and some new ideas and input. So we can go ahead and move forward with the agenda, Dr. Gorman.
All right, Eric, you want to pull the PowerPoint, please?
I will. Yep.
Thank you, sir. As Eric is preparing to show the agenda, we always start our meetings off with really an instructional council update. And after having a conversation with Ms. Davis, we thought it would be a really good idea to just share the overview and the purpose, as well as the structure of Instructional Council. So to help with that today is Dr. Maida Gunnell. And so Dr. Gunnell, you are up.
Good afternoon and welcome to our meeting. I'm happy to be here today with you. And today I'm going to go over the overview and purpose of Instructional Council. So we have the slides, which are taken directly from Article 7 in the GREA contract. The board and the association hereby create a council known as the Instructional Council, whose responsibility shall be to initiate policy changes that affect and determine the instructional programs. The members of the council shall establish processes for resolving issues that impact student achievement. So that is the purpose. The council is made up of 7 qualified employees, 7 qualified administrators. The 7 employees, I'm sorry, my screen is, I got pictures on the screen here.
Oh, our faces?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. I think you can minimize that up in the left-hand corner of our faces.
Or Doc, you can slide it over to the left if you need to, if that's helpful.
Okay. Sorry, I'm having technical issues here.
You're fine.
I'm just going to read it from my paper. So the 7 employee members shall be appointed by the association, and the administrators shall be appointed by the superintendent. It is encouraged that Instructional Council members serve a minimum of 2 years. The superintendent and GREA staff member shall be ex officio members of the Instructional Council. The Instructional Council chairperson shall alternate yearly between the association and the district, with the district sharing an odd number school years and the association sharing on even numbered school years. So this year, the administration is chairing it, the Instructional Council. The board and administrative staff will consistently seek the Instructional Council's input before implementing policies that affect student achievement. The council shall meet on a regularly scheduled basis as determined by the council. Classroom substitutes for employees where needed will be provided by the board. Just a side note, the council meets once a month, every 3rd Wednesday of the month, and there's a set calendar. The council may consult with employees, students, and members of the community, and the council shall be empowered to appoint subcommittees that would lead to improvement of instruction. The subcommittees shall meet as directed by the council and shall make regular reports of their findings to the council. The Instructional Council shall annually consider appointing a committee to review the testing program and to make recommendations to the Instructional Council. The recommendations shall include, but not be limited to, the adequacy and appropriateness of tests given. And lastly, all necessary expenses for staff and clerical assistants as determined by the council to carry out its responsibilities shall be provided by the board. And the next slide shows for this school year, Dr. Malange Kalambula and Mrs. Amy Powney are the chairs. And then you'll see who are the actual members from the GREA and who are the members from the administrative end, on the administrative end. And that is the information on the Instructional Council taken from Article 7.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Gunnell. Does anybody have any questions about the Instructional Council?
I'm curious the teachers that are on there. Obviously I know the names of the administrators. I'm curious the teachers. What levels and subjects. Just curious of the balance of the folks on there.
So I can speak a little bit about it. Jane Neiman, I know, is Union High School. I believe that I'm not exactly sure of all the grade levels of the teachers, but it's a combination of high school, middle, and elementary. And we provide coverage for them to go to the meetings.
Curious. Thank you.
Ms. Davis.
Any other questions? Sorry.
No, go ahead, please, Ms. Davis.
Okay, if anybody has any questions about the Instructional Council, feel free to ask and we'll make sure we get those answered. But they do come every time we have an academic achievement meeting. So we usually have lots of room for questions each time we meet. So, okay, I think we're all set to move on to the hybrid virtual update.
Before we do that, Ms. Davis, may we provide the Instructional Council update for this particular
definitely.
time? No problem. So Craig, could you please pull in Mrs. Amy Powney and Dr. Malange Kalambula? I believe Mrs. Amy Powney is presenting, if I'm correct.
Good. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. Well, good afternoon, Ms. Davis, Ms. Williams, and Mr. Ross. I'm going to give you an update on the meeting that was held on January 20th, 2021. Dr. Kalambula and I chaired this meeting, and during this time, it was a brief meeting. There were no new course proposals or updates that were brought to the January meeting at this point. What we did discuss was the subject of developing a new communication to be shared with the system, outlining our timeline and processes for submitting course proposals. We need a new communication because submission deadlines have changed over the last couple of years as we worked with SDS and the executive directors and administration to know that we needed a different timeline in order to prepare to have courses in the curriculum guide and available for students to register for. So because there were time changes and because we wanted to make sure that we were supporting the district, and the council needs to put out a new communication on what that process is, just to bring more clarity and access to the documents and understanding of the process. So while we were in the meeting, we had a discussion about it. We created some subcommittees to work on editing the process and timeline documents that exist, and also to draft a communication that will go out. And at our next meeting, those will be brought back to be shared and vetted by the full council. The only other thing that came up was a discussion of future agenda topics. members of the council expressed some interest in engaging in better understanding and work around equity in our curriculum and what our equity leadership team is doing about that. So fortunately, Malika Brown, who leads the equity leadership team, is on our instructional council as well. So we are going to be working around that topic in future meetings. And at a future meeting in the near future, Mr. Rodney Lewis, Director of Secondary Education, is going to be presenting academy courses for Ottawa Hills High School. Our next scheduled meeting is Wednesday, February 17th. And that is really the only update I have for you. Are there any questions?
Sounds like we're all set. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, now if I'm correct, we are ready to move on to a hybrid and virtual update.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Davis. So just like I shared at the board meeting on Monday evening, we are continuing to follow our hybrid virtual model, which is the AB model, where students in the A model go to school on Monday and Tuesday in person, and the students who are in cohort B go Thursday, Friday in person, and today, which is Wednesday, everyone is engaging asynchronously. Our participation rates are around 90%, and so we're going to try to capture a way to show participation for 100% virtual students, which has been around 90%, but also the students who are going the 2 days a week in person. So the next time we share participation with you, because we'll be a little further along in the marking period, we're gonna have those data readily available for you. From a highlights perspective, gosh, just being back in school is a highlight. There are so many teachers who just are so excited to be back. Our students are just doing a phenomenal job with social distancing, wearing masks, etc. I have been in about 20 buildings so far, and you know what, those Mondays and Tuesdays and the Thursdays and Fridays are looking. We're getting back to normal. Of course, putting those mitigation strategies in place. So, just a big shout out to our students, to our teachers, for trying their very best to get back to normal during these uncertain times. What I would like to do at this time, Ms. Davis, is share really the electives perspective in this hybrid virtual space. We spend a tremendous amount of time on core instruction when we do presentations like this. And this is really a nice opportunity for us to highlight what's happening with electives pre-K-12 in our school system. So to do that today, I'd like to ask Craig to pull Miss Maggie Malone into the conversation so she can provide an electives update. Ms. Malone?
Hello, thanks, Dr. Gorman and Chairperson Davis and committee. Excited to be here today to share with you about the electives in the hybrid and the virtual model. At our elementary level, we're excited that our students are receiving synchronous instruction once a week. As you may recall, when we were virtual, students received asynchronous instruction. So now we've gone to live interaction for students. So we are excited about that. That's been going well. Students are receptive. Teachers are very excited to be engaging with their kids in a real-time platform. So that's been going very well. And secondary electives are following the schedule that the AB schedule the district has laid out. So they're doing face-to-face instruction during hybrid A and B groups, and virtual students are joining classes online. Also been getting some positive feedback from some of our schools that are using the camera model. So as you may know, our high schools are teaching face-to-face as well as having camera opportunities for students at home. And that's been going well. A lot of positive feedback from our elective teachers on how that's going. So lots of positive feedbacks. Great to see kids engaged, like Dr. Gorman said, smiling and seeing staff happy has been a real joy, and meaningful elective instruction getting back on track.
Awesome, thank you.
So to continue, Ms. Davis, the next bullet is, of course, transportation. And our ultimate goal in the Grand Rapids Public Schools is to ensure that we are following our procedures and protocols to get students home to school and home from school safely every single day. As you know, we have two modes of transportation in the Grand Rapids Public Schools, one of which are our yellow buses with Dean Transportation, and the rapid for high school students. Something that we wanted to share with you that is new this year, for which we have all of our students signed up, is something called the ZPass. The ZPass allows our students, when they go onto the bus, to scan so that parents know when they get on the bus, and also to scan when they're getting off of the bus as well. Something else that's on the horizon is a new app that we're working on, where I believe it's called Here Comes the Bus. So it not only shows when you get on the bus or off the bus, it shows parents where students are specifically on their route to school and their route from home. So that's something that we are hoping to have in place within the next couple of months. Right now, all of our students have the ZPass. Those were distributed in our buildings. But again, the app that I was telling you about, that should be on the horizon in the next month or so. Count day procedures. I want to provide a little bit of clarity on count day. Again, count day is next week, Wednesday, February 10. The Grand Rapids Public Schools are engaging asynchronously on Wednesdays. And so we need to ensure that even though we do not have synchronous instruction on Wednesday, February 10, that our students are still engaging asynchronously. Whether that's Seesaw, Schoology, or Google Classroom, we need to ensure that our students are logging on count day. If the more students we have log on, the less work that we have to do on the back end, which is the Thursday when cohort B comes back to school, and the following Tuesday when cohort A comes back to in-person school. So parents, please make sure that your students are logging in next week, Wednesday. It is a very important day, and we want 100% logins on next week, Wednesday, pre-K-12 across the system. Of course, if students are going to be absent next week, Thursday, or the following Tuesday when they go to in-person school, please call and excuse that absence. You know, it's very important. But again, we go to school on Wednesday, every single Wednesday. Count day is no different, but we really want to place some emphasis on Wednesday, February 10, because it's the second count day of the year, and that ultimately determines our state funding. With that, Ms. Davis, we are continuing, like I said before, in the hybrid virtual model. We have many opportunities coming up for parents to share their information about how they feel about our particular models. As you know, there are lots of listening sessions. They have different names throughout the school district, but lots of opportunities for parents to give input as to how well we're doing. So we will continue to follow the guidance that we're receiving from medical professionals. We will also continue to listen to our parents and hear their concerns. With that, are there any questions around these specific areas before we transition to Mr. Harmson with an evaluation update?
I have a couple questions.
Sure, absolutely.
For electives, for music electives specifically, are our band students playing their instruments, and are there any changes because of COVID?
Absolutely. So is Maggie still on the call? I want to hear it right from Maggie. If not, we can.
Maggie's still on the call.
Let's pull Maggie in so you can hear specifically, Ms. Davis, what we're doing
Awesome.
with music throughout the school district. So Maggie Malone.
Thank you. Great question. Yes. So for the initial instruction, no, band students have not been playing. We've been focusing on rhythmic and melodic activities involving percussion, both pitched and rhythmic instruments, as well as other vocal activities. We have ordered our PPE as more research has been done and aerosol studies to determine that it is with those improvements and for those of you who are not familiar, they've been, and I know Ms. Davis, you are as a musician as well, but they've developed certain PPE specific for instrumentalists that have a slit mask where there's a slit in the middle and you can put your mouthpiece in. But there were some instruments that they still had not determined there was enough aerosol control to make that safe. They created bell covers. So for brass, it's been noted that those aerosols are adequately contained. The woodwind instruments are the ones where there have been questions. So they've come up with technology now where they're putting bell covers for those as well. And with social distancing, we're learning now that will be okay. So we have ordered that. We're hopeful when we get that in to begin that instruction.
Great. And then as far as choir goes, are they able to sing with masks on, or how is that working?
Yes, the research that we saw and all of our professional organizations have determined that with the tight fitting mask and social distancing, at least 6 feet, preferably 12, they're adequate. That's fine that students are allowed to sing or adults are allowed to sing. The caveat is it cannot be longer than 60 minutes. So we're capping that at 60 minutes. And if you've seen some of our music class, a lot of times students are doing warm-ups or doing physical dynamic warm-ups to begin. Then they're transitioning into their vocal warm-up. So setting up and structuring the lesson so that we're not exceeding that time limit and still engaging kids in musical activity. So yes, on the singing with tight fitting masks and social distancing.
Awesome.
Does
anybody else have questions about specials, about electives? Okay, and then I just had one question about transportation. Is the ZPass and or this app, are those something that just our district has brought about, or is that something that is with Dean Transportation?
Yeah, so both of these products are being used nationally with schools. Of course, we have a team, Mr. Larry Johnson and some others that work closely with Dean Transportation. And these were apps, processes that were brought to our attention. And we think these will ultimately benefit our families moving forward. These are not exclusive to the Grand Rapids Public Schools. These are national, if not international products.
Great.
Quick thing, I'm curious on that. So the ZPass piece, that's not sort of directly connected to the rapid bus pass. So they use the bus pass to get on, but then the ZPass to.
Yeah, the ZPass is exclusively Dean Transportation. So our younger students, for the most part, who are riding yellow buses, the passes were distributed in schools, so provided from the principal to the teacher, distributed from the teachers in each classroom. My kids have them attached to their backpack. When I was at an elementary school yesterday, I saw the same thing where principals were going on to buses, ensuring kids were getting scanned on, and then they scan off after that. So it's not the rapid thing, Mr. Ross. Okay. This is more of a yellow bus Dean Transportation thing.
Anything else before we move on to evaluation? Any other questions? Okay, I think we're all set then.
Okay, Mr. Eric Harmson is going to provide an evaluation update. Eric, ready to go?
Thank you, Dr. Gorman, and good evening, Mr. Ross, Ms. Davis, and Ms. Williams. And do you want to give
Grant.
it? And Ms. Grant, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
So currently there's no change in the valuation law for this year, even though we're in the midst of this pandemic. And we are hopeful that some changes will be made, and we have reached out to our lobbyists and legislators around evaluation for this year. In the past, unfortunately, the state has waited till March and sometimes till May, till making changes to those law, but we're hopeful. We're really pushing that we get that information sooner or later. So for right now, according to state law, 40% student growth, but again, we're pushing and hoping that that will change. One of the things that we have looked at for this year is providing support for those who are newer to the district and newer to teaching. So in the hybrid model, less time with students in the classroom, and just where we started with in person, reduce the number of observation for tenured teachers, for probationary teachers, other than for teachers who are brand new to the profession. They still have 3 to make sure they get the feedback, and having enough being able to add observations if we need to. But it's kind of the beauty of the Grand Rapids system, is we have a lot of differentiating based on needs. We're working, we have the protocols for virtual observations, and we'll be sending those out to the district. We're really excited. In a couple weeks, we are going to have virtual observation, learning and observation training for teachers and evaluators, and we're actually going to do that together. One of the things that we've done and I've done is meet with teachers and with Mary and Kathleen to get their feedback around our evaluation system. And that's something we have talked about is let's have teachers and evaluators train together so they're getting the same message. There's a few things that we need to differentiate, but we're really excited about that. That's starting in a couple weeks. So that will be around what is good virtual teaching and learning look like, and how do you observe it and rate it. And we're based on recommendations from a Danielson group that they put out on 7 specific components they feel should be rated during a virtual observation. So not the 16 components that are usually rated, but down to 7. So again, we're really excited about that happening. We've pushed the timeline out to the middle of May. Usually we're completing observations before spring break. So we're pushing out to May again to give us more chance to do observation and give feedback to folks who need it. Today, this is always great to give perspective. So today, I did the 5-hour and facilitated the 5-hour calibration trainings for our new evaluators, and I'm losing my voice. So it always gives me appreciation for going back to my teacher days of working. And of course, I had 3 students, 3 of our administrators who were perfect students. They had perfect behavior, and all I had to do was worry about it. So, it's always great, and my hat's off to our teachers and how hard they work. And then this is the first time I've ever done it virtually. So, it's a great way to keep in touch and keep perspective on what's going. And then again, my hat's off. And teaching is such a hard job, and teachers work so hard, and virtually, I think it's exponentially the work has gotten harder. So I have so much respect for everything our teachers are doing. So evaluator calibration, I did it with the new evaluators today. Next couple of weeks, we will be doing that for other evaluators. That's an outside vendor who comes in and calibrates to make sure that we're rating in a way that meets the rubric in our process. And I talked about the virtual teaching and learning best practice and observations. And again, a lot of this is based on feedback from stakeholders, including GREA and focus groups. So in December, I met with, I think, our 17 or 18 teachers, and the focus on what are we going to do for the rest of this year. And then let's start talking about next year and what that looks like and what do we need to change. And the 10 years we've been doing this, we've always had teacher and stakeholder feedback part of it. And I think one of the reasons why our system has improved is because we've taken that feedback and we've implemented in a way that works for teachers and for administrators. Any questions?
Could you maybe highlight about those protocols? I wonder what might be different that we're doing virtually in comparison to typical observation.
Sure. So a typical in-person observation, which we'll still do some of those, is you sit down for 45 minutes to an hour, a class period. Or in virtual observations, you're doing multiple, you're watching virtual teaching multiple times, not just one time, for short periods of time, and looking at those again from 16 components down to 7 components. And so that's a big change from 16 to 7 components. And then also it's just not one classroom visit. It'll be multiple classroom visits to get the information to make a good rating and to provide feedback.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, we are now on the last slide of the presentation. Ms. Davis, just to recap, just to refresh your memory on this particular slide, next steps and future topics. Just the first and foremost, this academic achievement group really focuses on teaching and learning. So the last probably year's worth of meetings has been around returning to learn in this new virtual and hybrid space. But we really want to get back to teaching and learning with this particular group. Looking at our data, how well are our students doing as it relates to the metrics that are out there on the MAP assessment, on graduation rates, things of that nature. We also want to continue to look at electives. We haven't done that so much in the past, but that's an area that needs to be highlighted. And then another area that we discussed were really the activities tied to curricula. So this could be robotics, could be chess clubs, it could be HBCU tours, things that we're doing that are tied to academics that we need to highlight just a little bit more. So, these are really our topics that we would like to bring to your attention for this upcoming year. We are always receptive to hearing, kind of next steps or what you want to hear in the future. And I, of course, meet with Ms. Davis to hear what those are and to put presentations together. But if there are any items that you would like to hear about, of course, Ms. Davis, if you would like to share those with me or the group would, or if we'd like to take a little bit of time now, we're at the end of meetings. I think all of those things are appropriate, and we will, of course, follow your lead, Ms. Davis.
Okay, yeah, I would just like to pose that question to my colleagues. If you have any input now, or feel free to speak up of what you would like to hear more about this year. And if you think of something after tonight's meeting, please let me know. And just some of the things that I brought up were kind of speaking to what Dr. Gorman mentioned with electives. I would just like to hear some highlights, especially given the nature of COVID and virtual and hybrid. I loved hearing about our arts programs today. I think that's something that we don't hear about very often. And I think given the nature of all the changes we've had, it's good to know what's going on with all of that. So I also put on my list with the arts, the different career academies and how they've been adjusting given different restrictions that we have in place right now. How maybe our theme schools have adjusted given their specific nature. And like Dr. Gorman said, I had encores on there as well. And then I was really happy to see that the Instructional Council is talking about this, because we do have such an emphasis right now as a board on equity. And so to hear that they're going to be bringing that up, how they are integrating that into the curriculum, or maybe seeing where we have some gaps that need to be addressed. So I'm excited about that. But colleagues, do you have anything you'd like to add?
This is Mrs. Williams. I actually would also like to see and hear about how we're applying that equity piece with regards to those activities that also relate to academics.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know where we begin, but just kind of a bridge of information, looking at fall data at GRCC and Promise Zone students. For math in particular, only about 8% of our students who completed pre-algebra, basic math review and pre-algebra, only about 8% successfully completed the math course. And you know, for the rest of those courses that the P-Zone students are in, successful completion was, you know, between 35 and 50%, at least, some a little more than 50%. So I just thought that was a great disparity in math in particular. 8% was a, you know, a bit concerning. And I know we don't necessarily have immediate solutions, but it just seems from an equity perspective, there's definitely a real gap there for sure. And just would like that to be on our agenda at some point.